Hello and welcome to Emsi webinars. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Today we have an exciting webinar, working out how to get the right information in front of your local community so far as reskilling and new jobs, etc. in this difficult time. We're joined today by Emsi's Director of Economic Development, Cookson, and Martyn, Gerard, who is Emsi's Account Manager for Economic Development. If you have any questions during the course of the webinar, please put them in the question box on the control panel, and we will endeavour to get back to those at the end of the presentation. I'll be sending out a follow-up email with the recording and also the slides from today's presentation, so keep your eyes open for that. So without any further ado, I'll hand over to you, Will.
Thanks, Debbie, and good morning to everyone that has tuned in. And if you've tuned in at a later time, whatever time it is, welcome. So today we're going to be looking at how data can be presented. And when we talk about data, local employment data, presented to people in your community. Just to give you an idea of what we're going to run through, we're going to do the obligatory brief introduction to Emsi. We'll then look at the context, what's driving that need for local labour market information, and we'll talk also about our career coach platform and the ways in which that can be accessed and what sits behind it, and then we'll do a summary, and we'll also point you in the direction of other available resources. So without further ado, I'm going to do the introduction to Emsi for those that don't already know us. So Emsi's mission is to use labour market data really to inform, connect people around the worlds of around individuals within your community, education and employers. And as the diagram shows over on the right hand of the screen, we see skills as being right in the middle of that in terms of informing how people and organisations and important stakeholders understand the world of employment and education. So I want to talk a little bit about the context in regards to why do we think that this is important at the moment? Why is it important to get local labour market information in front of individuals within your communities? Well, obviously, and we're over a year in now, so I really am stating the obvious. There's been a lot of economic disruption over the last year. We've seen a steep rise in unemployment. I've seen that lead naturally to an increased demand for good information about local employment opportunities. And it goes back to Emsi's mission, which is to help people and organisations make more informed decisions about the world of work. Now, Career Coach is one of the ways in which we feel that we can help people to make those decisions. And the reason for that is it presents data on jobs, occupation trends, what could be likely salary expectations, education levels required for particular careers and occupations, and it's related, it gives a view of job volumes in the local area, whether that's growing or declining over time. Most importantly there, in terms of presenting that, and this is a theme I'll come back to a bit, we feel it's really important to present the data in a way in which it's easy to understand and easy to access and absorb. Key to that as well is helping people understand the skills that are required to do a job. What are the tasks that are required within a job? So people can see how good a fit it is with either with their personality, and we'll show you how we can do that, or in regards to the skills that they may have through previous jobs in which they've worked. And it may well identify the need to upskill. And then what we do is we link those insights through to actual job vacancies in the area so we can support people with their job search. So for people that have used our research tool, Analyst, it's still drawing from the same mixture of structural data and big data in terms of job postings, but it's presented in a very different way. Now we see that there's a challenge And we know this from talking to our customer base, and particularly in regards to local enterprise partnerships and local government. We know that they already understand that every economic area, and we go down to local authority, obviously, and we can build up into bigger geographies, but we understand that they understand that every area is different in terms of its economic makeup, and that's reflected in the available employment opportunities. And sometimes there's a need to try and steer people towards where the opportunities are and away from what may have been an historical trend that's in decline. But we also recognise that there's a need to support residents in making informed decisions and using local LMI as opposed to national or regional data to inform that decision making. And then, as I mentioned before, there's a need to remove jargon, technical jargon, to make sure that labour market information is present. Much as we all like labour market information and find it insightful, we remove technical terminology like you'll have seen this on previous webinars where we talk about location quotient as a way of understanding the presence of an industry or sector or an occupation in a given area. We wouldn't do that, would spare people that are accessing our data and may not have that understanding. We spare that information. And then what we're looking to do is inspire people about local employment opportunities, help areas retain talent, and also showcase employment opportunities and careers to support economic recovery. So try to kind of set out what we feel the challenge is based on the conversation we're having with our customers and across the sector at present. Now, I thought it might be useful as well to talk about some of the use cases, and I'm thinking predominantly of the customers that we work with in the economic development world, whether it's local enterprise partnerships or local government, but we have really broad use case for our careers information using our career coach portal. It's often used to present and help young people with decision making around careers and employment and education, but just as much, and definitely over the last year, it's been used and not necessarily presented in exactly the same way, but used to inform adults that may well have become unemployed over this period about what options there are within the labour market. And then also people thinking about changing careers. We have customers that use it to support their adult education offer because that's often closely linked to the world of employment. We have a particular customer that uses it to support care leavers. And then it's also used across areas to support schools engagement. Worth saying as well, within our wider Emsi world, career coach and the way is often used by further education colleges to help them with making people that are accessing their courses aware of the wider or localized employer context for doing a particular career to lead to a particular job or career. I want to talk a bit about, as you'd imagine, the data that underpins our careers information. So what we've done in a granular way is we've provide information across all of the 369 standard occupation classifications. So that's SOC classifications at a 4-digit level. What we then do, because obviously that's a lot of information, is we build that up into 30 career pathways, which are the ones you can see on the right hand side here, and 11 career categories. So you've got those 11 on the left hand side, so high level view of understanding how occupations are grouped together. And then what we do, we'll see this shortly, we take people through a journey. So they might start off thinking about art, media and publishing. That will open up opportunities in terms of career pathways around visual and performing arts, design, and then you may well get down to the 4-digit SOC for graphic designer. There's a lot of insight that we provide by occupation, and I thought it might be just useful to set this out. Mixture of structural data, which is coming from official government sources that we model into a proprietary data set. And that's where we will get our job counts. We'll get salary data, which will be based on regional data, not national. education levels, which we've got mapped across to occupations, key tasks, which again comes from that occupational information, wage ranges, and then we also source in big data in terms of job postings. Apologies for my dogs, I'm going to ignore them. The postman has managed to come at this point in time. Then what we also have is we'll have from job postings, we'll have companies posting jobs, and we'll also have historical employment using our structural data, employment projections going forward, so looking forward to 2029 in regards to looking at what's happened historically in terms of trends around employment and looking out to see where those are going. Then we'll also bring in job titles as described by employers in job postings, which is useful for informing people's job searches. And then what we will also do, and this is, I'll come back to this point maybe later, we group together occupations based on how compatible they are. And we use a skills taxonomy, American skills taxonomy called ONET, which we've mapped across to that granular 4-digit information on occupations. So you could see, for example, if you're interested in being a chef, you'll be able to look at compatible occupations and it will bring those out. The final point is we have live job postings which are sourced from Indeed through an API, and I'll talk a bit more about APIs later on. The visual you can see here is from a view of monthly job postings from one of our career coach portals. Now I'm going to introduce Martyn, who's our account director for our economic development customers. He's going to talk a little bit about the different elements that you can find, or the different modules and reporting that you can find within our career coach tool. Hi, Martyn.
Hi, Will. Thank you very much. So yeah, thinking about the assessments is one of the features of the tool alongside the careers information, also other aspects like a CV builder. The assessment is a good way of customizing some of the careers content that you're able to see. So based on your answers to responses to the assessment questions, it then suggests certain career choices to you. So whether you're somebody who's new to the world of work or somebody that's re-entering the labour market, perhaps you've been made redundant and thinking about different career choices, the assessment can certainly help you think about how things are better suited to your skills and aptitude. So there's different kind of assessments you can use initially. There's a 6-question quick assessment, or a standard 30 or more detailed 60-question assessment. And as you work those through, they begin to sort of give you different questions that you can answer. And with respect to the answers that you actually give, that then suggests particular career options for you. So you can see on the screen there, you answer particular questions, as I say, about different domains or aptitudes that you might have, creativity or so on. And then the assessment results give you your top 3 traits. So in this case, it's artistic, social, and engineering. You can also download a full description of your results. And then underneath that, the top career matches. So in this case, education, training, and so on. And that's the assessment tool. So then going on to the careers LMI, so the kind of careers options that are presented to you. If you don't do the assessment, you can also go directly to this careers information. So you have the different career categories that we were speaking about earlier there. If you click on one of those, you get the different pathways within that. And then also, if you click on any of those particular aspects, different occupations will then suggest themselves to you. You can have a look at the different information for those as well. As Will was mentioning earlier, you get things like, so the chefs there, for example, is a good occupation to look at. You get an overview on the landing page there. You also get information to describe what the career is about, so the daily tasks in that example, education levels, typical education levels, and also the skills that employers are looking for. Information as well about wages, so the age range the wage range of different wage levels available, from entry level to more experienced. Under the employment tab, you've got the information about job postings, so it's more real-time data about how trends have changed in the recent past, the top companies employing, and also the projections that we have that give you a forecast as to how things might trend in the future, as well as things like top job titles. Similar careers, so we use some of the sort of functionality of ONET to be able to map similar careers to chefs in this example. So obviously similar kind of hospitality type occupations being suggested by the tool as alternatives. And then the final link here is then a little bit about actual live job postings that Will mentioned earlier from the Indeed website. So these are, as I say, live job postings. If you're considering an actual application, you could jump into an application from there by going to the Indeed website. So that's just a quick summary of some of the actual functionality of the tool that we have.
Thanks, Martyn. And apologies again for my noisy dogs. Just wanted to also mention something else that's recent addition. Essentially, these are plugins. They are a low-cost way of embedding some labour market information. You can see an example over here on the right-hand side into a website or a platform. So there's not really a need for development. Essentially, it's the same as the way you would embed a YouTube video, or maybe something that you've got from Twitter, for example. What does this mean? It means for all of the, and it depends how you want to group these up. You could group them up into higher level groupings, or you could look at the 369 occupations at 4-digit level. And you can provide insight on median salary per hour, job openings, the volume of people currently employed in the given area, and projected employment percentage growth, decline, from that period of 2021 through to 2029. It's been designed with non-technical users in mind. Can't mention that enough. So the idea is that if you have a platform which you've got access to and you need to update it with content, then there's no reason you couldn't have a focus in on a particular occupation or groups of occupations, or you could have one of these plugins for every occupation that you've already got mentioned on there. So as I mentioned, just like embedding a tweet or a YouTube video into a web page, it's also worth mentioning that you can have a click through to the Career Coach portal. So it could be that you use it to drive traffic towards the portal from your website. Many different ways in which that can be used. I also want to just quickly mention, because not all of the people we work with are aware that we provide this. First of all, I mentioned API, and I earlier on mentioned about not using jargon. API is the acronym for Application Programming Interface. What does that actually mean? It actually means that software, it's an intermediary between our data and your platform. So you could draw directly from our data rather than having to update it monthly as job postings data changes on a monthly basis. So you've got a way of plugging into our data and pushing that through into your website. There's plenty of different ways that this can be used. We find that customers tend to be very specific in regards to what they want to show. It goes back to my point earlier about not bamboozling the audience with lots and lots of data, but thinking about what's going to be meaningful and shine a lens on your area. Obviously, you can add in local jobs data. You could add in insight on skills demand drawn from job postings. You could look at how job postings and recruitment activity is tracking. You can add in core LMI for sectoral context and industry context. It's up to you how you do present it in terms of whether you use infographics, whether you use particular graphs. But obviously it ties in with whatever the platform is in terms of your branding. Can be a really useful way for raising aspirations and making people aware of things they may well not know about their local area. So yeah, quick summary. What have we talked about? We've talked about the need for localized labour market information because of obviously the disruption that we've all experienced to a greater or lesser extent over the last year, how that can be used to inform decision making around the world of work. That importance of removing jargon and complicated metrics, and also localizing the data rather than having a national or regional view of what's happening. That piece about compatible occupations is something that we keep coming back to with our customers because of the disruption and the need to understand where your skill set are and how they may relate to other occupations that may be more secure. We think that that's a key part of the functionality that's of use. And then obviously it's important to mention that if you do have a career coach portal, then there is reporting available on the analytics, so you can get interesting and useful insight in regards to career aspirations. Which careers are people interested in? How does that reflect to your understanding of local needs? And then there's obviously different ways in which it can be presented and accessed, and we've talked about the career coach portal, which essentially is an online portal. It can be branded as you want it to be branded. And then there's the plugin where we can take bits of labour market information, little bite-sized pieces, and put that directly into a website with not much required in regards to development knowledge or expertise. And then there's the kind of full fat option, which is to access our API and present that however you want it to be presented. And that can be obviously presented within your website or portal as required. So lots of options there to consider. Happy to discuss any of those. Just also wanted to mention, we obviously have our career coach suite, which we've talked about that today. We have our Analyst Tool, which is a research tool, has all of our labour market information in there, all of our core LMI, all of our access to big data around job postings and profiles. And then we also provide bespoke reports as well, looking at particular issues like COVID-19, for example. Couple of things to mention. I wanted to introduce, or for those of you that weren't on our last big webinar, reintroduce the UK Skills Match tool. Now this is different to Career Coach, so I don't want to confuse things. This is free to access, it's a prototype. It's not really looking so much at, well, it doesn't look at labour market information, it doesn't look specifically at the data we can draw from job postings, except in one essence, in that it captures information around skills. So those are how individuals describe their skills, how organisations and employers will describe their skills when they're going out to recruit. It can be used by careers and employability advisors to help customers to understand their personal skills profile. And that's where it really has a use. It can then allow them to start thinking about which skills gaps they might have in regards to particular career areas, and it allows them to identify live local jobs that match their skills profile. Just to give you an example, so you can build a skills profile. You could import your LinkedIn profile, for example, or you could build it up from scratch, and you can search by skills, by job title. So obviously they've clicked it, they've put in sales managers, and it's come up with these. And then you click on the ones that you have, and you may also click on ones that you want. And that starts to build up that profile, and then it can take you through to look at where that matches to career areas and different options within those, or then you can take it through to identify local job opportunities based on your skills. Really useful for individuals that went to self-serve. Lots of interesting insight there in regards to skills that we will be talking more about as we go through this year. And you can access this for free. So it's not a subscription tool, but we do ask you to basically get free access. You need to follow the link that is here, and we'll share that link in the follow-up email to this webinar as well. And you can have a play with that. There are other tools in there as well. There's a skills extractor, where you can put your resume, or you could put in a particular qualification that you have, and it will extract the skills as they're mentioned within that. So yeah, lots to play with, free to access, but quite different to the careers coach tool that we talked about earlier on, in that it's really focused in on skills rather than that broader view of what's happening in the local labour market. A couple of things to mention in terms of future webinars. We've got a webinar next week, which we're jointly running with People Plus. We also have a guest speaker from Palladium, really talking about skills and employment approaches to avoiding regional inequalities. For those that people don't know People Plus, they do a lot of work with skills and employability, supporting a broad range of customers. They work with ex-offenders as well. Should be really interesting to get their perspective on how they access and use data, and we'll also be shining a light on how that can be some good practice there and how that can be used to inform that type of work. And yes, also to mention, in April, after Easter, we've got the next of our big webinars, which will be looking at changing demand for skills over the past year and beyond. So looking back in regards to how skills demands changed, but then also looking forward at recovery, because we see skills as being a key way of understanding that. So I just wanted to quickly thank Martyn and Debbie, and thank you all for joining us today.
That's great. Thank you, Will. Very good. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks all. Bye-bye.